When the Morrison family moved into their dream home on Blackwood Lane, they thought they had found paradise. A 4-bedroom colonial house with original hardwood floors, a wraparound porch, and an asking price that seemed too good to be true. The real estate agent had been almost too eager to close the deal, barely mentioning the attic space that took up the entire 3rd floor. "Just storage," she had said with a dismissive wave. The previous owners never used it. What she didn't mention was why 13 families had lived in that house over the past 40 years, and why none of them stayed longer than 8 months. David Morrison was a practical man, a software engineer who believed in logic, reason, and things that could be explained. His wife, Jennifer, was an artist, more open to intuition and feelings. Their 12-year-old daughter, Maya, was curious about everything, the kind of kid who asked 1,000 questions and never accepted simple answers. And it was Maya's curiosity that would ultimately lead them to discover what lived in the attic. What had always lived in the attic? What would always live in the attic? The first week in the new house was exhausting but exciting. Boxes everywhere, furniture being arranged and rearranged. The chaos of starting fresh. Maya had claimed the bedroom on the 2nd floor with the window seat overlooking the garden. It was perfect, she said, her own little sanctuary. But on the 3rd night she heard it. A scratching sound, rhythmic and deliberate. Scratch, scratch, scratch. Scratch, scratch, scratch. It came from above her room. From the attic. "Dad, there's something in the attic," Maya said at breakfast the next morning. David looked up from his coffee, already tired from unpacking. "Probably just squirrels, honey. Old houses like this, animals get into the crawl spaces. I'll check it out this weekend." But David never got around to checking. There was always something else that needed attention. A leaking faucet, a loose floorboard, a door that wouldn't close properly. The attic could wait, but the scratching didn't wait. Every night, like clockwork, at exactly 2:17 in the morning, Maya would wake to that sound. Scratch, scratch, scratch. Scratch, scratch, scratch. It was driving her insane. She tried wearing earplugs. She tried playing music. Nothing worked. The sound seemed to penetrate everything, as if it was coming from inside her own head. On the 10th night, Maya had had enough. She grabbed her flashlight, crept out of her room, and found the narrow staircase that led to the attic. The door at the top was old and wooden, with a brass handle that was ice cold to the touch. Maya hesitated. Every horror movie she had ever seen told her this was a terrible idea. But she was tired, frustrated, and determined to prove it was just a squirrel or a raccoon. She turned the handle and pushed. The attic was massive, stretching the entire length of the house. Moonlight filtered through a small circular window at the far end, casting long shadows across the dusty floorboards. Old furniture covered in white sheets stood like ghosts in the darkness. Boxes were stacked against the walls, and cobwebs hung from the exposed beams like curtains. Maya swept her flashlight across the space, looking for any sign of an animal. That's when she saw it. In the corner, partially hidden behind an old wardrobe, was a door, but not a normal door. This door was small, maybe 4 feet tall, and it was covered in strange symbols. Symbols that looked hand-carved, deep gouges in the wood that formed patterns Maya didn't recognize. And strangest of all, the door had 7 different locks running down its length. Heavy, old-fashioned padlocks, all of them secured. Who put 7 locks on a door in an attic? Maya stepped closer, her flashlight beam fixed on the symbols. They seemed to move in the light, shifting and writhing like living things. Then she heard it, a whisper, soft and pleading, coming from behind the locked door. "Help me. Please help me. I've been here so long. So very long." Maya's blood ran cold. That wasn't an animal. That was a voice. Human voice. Or something that sounded human. "Who's there?" Maya called out, her voice shaking. The whisper came again, more urgent this time. "The locks. Remove the locks. Set me free. I didn't do anything wrong. They put me here. They trapped me. Please. Please help me." Maya took a step back. Every instinct screamed at her to run. But the voice sounded so desperate, so sad. What if someone was actually trapped behind that door? What if a person was locked in there? "I'll get my dad," Maya said. "He can help you." She turned to leave, but the voice changed. Became sharp, angry. "No. No others. Only you. You're the one who listened. You're the one who heard. The locks. Remove them now." The anger in the voice made Maya run. She bolted down the attic stairs, her flashlight bouncing wildly, and didn't stop until she was back in her room with the door locked. The next morning, Maya told her parents everything. David was skeptical, but Jennifer looked worried. They went up to the attic together as a family. The locked door was exactly where Maya had described it, covered in those strange symbols. David examined the locks closely. They were old, probably 100 years or more. The metal was rusted but still solid. "What is this?" Jennifer whispered. "Why would someone lock a door like this?" David pulled out his phone and took pictures of the symbols. "I'll do some research. Maybe these are property markers or something historical. But we're not opening this door until we know what's behind it." That seemed reasonable. That seemed safe. But that night the scratching stopped. Instead there was knocking. Loud, insistent knocking that echoed through the entire house. Knock, knock, knock. Knock, knock, knock. It came from the attic, from behind that locked door. David called a local historian the next day, sending him the photos of the symbols. The historian called back within an hour, his voice tight with concern. "Mr. Morrison, where did you find these symbols?" David explained about the door in the attic. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. "Mr. Morrison, those symbols are containment marks. Very old containment marks. They're meant to keep something trapped, something that shouldn't be released. I don't know the full history of your house, but I strongly advise you not to open that door. In fact, I recommend you have it sealed with concrete. Tonight." But it was already too late. When David went up to the attic that evening to take more pictures, he found something that made his heart stop. One of the locks was missing. Just gone, as if it had never been there. The wood where it had been attached was smooth and unmarked. Jennifer and David searched the entire attic. They searched the whole house. The lock was nowhere to be found. And that night the voice came back. But this time it didn't just whisper. It spoke loudly enough for all of them to hear, echoing through the walls. "1 down. 6 to go. And when the last lock falls, I'll finally be free. Free to show you what I really am. Free to show you what I've become after a century of darkness." The Morrison family didn't sleep that night. They huddled together in the living room, all the lights on, waiting for morning. David had already called a locksmith, a priest, and the police. But when the locksmith arrived and went up to the attic, he came back down pale and shaking. "I can't help you," he said, gathering his tools. "Those locks are opening themselves. I watched it happen. The second lock just unlocked. No key, no mechanism. It just clicked open and fell to the floor. And the thing behind that door, I heard it laughing. Whatever you do, don't let all those locks come off." He left without another word. Priest came next. Father Thomas was an elderly man who had performed exorcisms before. He went up to the attic with his Bible and holy water, confident in his faith. He came back down 20 minutes later, his hands shaking so badly he could barely hold his Bible. "That's not a demon," he said. "Demons I can deal with. Demons I understand. But what's behind that door is something else. Something older. Something that existed before we had names for such things. My advice is simple. Leave this house. Leave tonight. And never come back." But Jennifer had another idea. She had been researching the house's history at the local library. She discovered something terrifying. In 1873, the house had been owned by a man named Elijah Blackwood. He was a scientist, obsessed with dimensions and parallel worlds. His journals, kept in the library archives, spoke of experiments. Terrible experiments where he tried to open doorways to other places, other realities. His final journal entry was dated October 31st, 1873. It read, "I have succeeded, have opened a door, but what came through was not what I expected. It wears my face, speaks with my voice, but it is not me. It is something ancient and hungry. I have managed to trap it in the attic room, but I fear the locks will not hold forever. To whoever finds this, I beg you, never let it out. It promised to show me wonders. Instead, it showed me what lies between the spaces of our world. And now it wants to show everyone." Elijah Blackwood disappeared that same night. His body was never found, but the house remained, and that door remained locked. For 150 years, the door had stayed sealed.